Hello, folks. This is Kenny with Just the Right Angle coming at you live. Rumble, Just the Right Angle, also on Podbean. Actually, let me make sure Podbean is starting up. You can listen in to this and make comments as well. I do a regular broadcast every Wednesday at 12:35. Today, I'm going to do just a real quick update on something I saw on Sunday. I was not available to really do much last week. It was the weekend of my lovely wife Rebecca's birthday. And so I'm actually getting messages about a lot of things. Folks, we have a huge problem in Arkansas. We are supposedly a red state. And you would think as a red state that we would be able to easily pass things like a ban on federal agents being able to do what they did to Brian Malinowski, the head airport guy, or what they did to Nathan Hughes, the J6 guy. Unfortunately, we have a problem in the Republican Party as well. A lot of people think they have an idea of what's going on. In reality, there are a lot of people are simply being misled. And I'm going to give a prime example of this right here. This is the talk business show called Capitol View. It's Talk Business and Politics. It's actually made by Nexstar. You can see I've been critical of this show before. I want to give more of a background of it. Nexstar and Talk Business Politics basically runs the show. It debuted in 2013. Its original broadcaster was Roby, and then he left for a little bit. And now he's basically, and in 2022, he came back. And here he gives a description. Capitol View is a Sunday morning political talk show produced by Nexstar Corporation. It airs on several TV stations in Little Rock and bordering states. It was launched in 2023. Politicians at a local, state, and federal level, and roundtable discussions with pundits and policymakers. So that's kind of the background. So this is what television is trying to tell you what is going on. And usually, and if you've seen this format before, typically what they do is they have a supposed Democrat, a supposed Republican, and then a supposed independent moderator. That's the way they frame these debates. That's the way they frame these in a lot of these roundtable discussions. In reality, these are all globalists to a certain level. This is Grant Tenille. He is the chairman of what is left of the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party has been in absolute shambles and has lost elections every election cycle, regardless of what happens on a national level. In other words, no matter how bad the Republicans screwed things up with folks like Ronna McDaniel deliberately sabotaging conservative efforts and letting Democrats steal elections as they did in 2020 and in 2022, Democrats still somehow seem to lose elections in the state of Arkansas. They've lost. Republicans now have what's known as a Republican supermajority. That means they control 3/4 of the legislature. They're actually, this year, they're likely to lose to a libertarian in West Little Rock, a guy named Michael White, who is running for state legislature there. And it's almost to the point that it's better to be a liberal, either some other independent, than state yourself as a Democrat, except for a few strongholds. And if the Republican Party on a national, state level would focus more on city and county elections, we could remove Democrats from there as well. It's just a matter of getting them to do that. Part of the effort to reform the Republican Party so that it can actually do what it's supposed to do and adhere to its platform is making sure that we have conservatives that are elected to office. And, of course, conservatives that are elected to positions of power within the party, mainly as state chair. Our current chair is a guy named Joseph Wood. If you're not familiar who Joseph Wood is, I can show you the broadcast, one of many broadcasts where he literally slammed a door in my face while I was trying to ascertain information as to why he was trying to sabotage the convention I and others and over nearly 600 people went to in deciding rule changes for the Republican Party of Arkansas. And this issue has been brought up before on Capitol View. I talked about it before when they had Rex Nelson, the supposed Republican strategist, who was not at the convention nor at the executive committee meeting, and as far as I know, hasn't been involved in the Republican Party in decades. He was the last supposed Republican expert. This guy here is John Burris. And he was a Arkansas state senator and is now a lobbyist for a group called Capital Advisors. And he was the supposed Republican here. And then, of course, Roby Brock is the supposed moderator. Now, first, they waste the first not quite minute talking about political polls, which you shouldn't waste your time with political polls. The whole purpose of political polls is to create a bandwagon effect and is the media to talk about who's more popular as opposed to actual policy. In other words, things that actually matter. That's the purpose of political polling. But in the midst of this, and I've highlighted to where the section they're going to talk, they talk about the closed primaries again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this, and hopefully it'll show up well on the other. Oops, sorry about that. Doing the Podbean and Ocean broadcasts. Give me just a moment.
Numbers from our baseline Labor Day poll with John Burris. He is Republican strategist with Capital Advisors Group. Grant Tenille, chairman of the Democratic Party of Arkansas. But before we get to our poll numbers, I want to talk about some news of the week. And let's begin with something that was on the front page of Friday's newspaper. There is a lawsuit amongst Republicans who are squabbling over whether or not to close their primaries. I come to you first, John Burris. Should party primaries be closed?
I've never liked closing primaries. I just think, especially the way Arkansas has trended over the years, the more people voting, the better. The more people calling themselves Republican, the better. And it's just up to the candidate to go out and win. I lost a Republican primary, so it would be really easy to be critical of the process, but I think more times than not, the process works.
So background, John Burris was one of the establishment candidates. He was defeated by a conservative named Scott Flippo for the Arkansas Senate in the northern part of Arkansas is Boone County and two other counties near there. I believe the other one's Carroll, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's one other county, but it was northern Arkansas. The thing, when he says the process works, that means usually the party that is bought off by the Chamber of Commerce, the Municipal League, Walmart, Tyson Foods, the powers that be that have kept Arkansas in back for decades by trying to interfere in the politics of course, they ran the Democrat Party when it was powerful, and now the Republican Party has taken over. They have infested it with operatives like Chris Caldwell and like John Burris himself. So John Burris, while John Burris was defeated, other conservatives ran in that time frame that he was defeated. And most notably, there was an effort to defeat Shane English, who was the deciding vote on the funding for Obamacare Medicaid expansion in Arkansas. But she kept her race. She won. And there was an effort to replace Eddie Joe Williams with Artie Hopper. That was another effort by Conduit that I and other conservatives were a part of, but we weren't able to do so, mainly because Democrat crossover. Some other examples of Democrat crossover include Bob Bailey, who was running a conservative in Russellville. Oh my goodness! And it's another state Senate race. I can't remember the woman's name. It doesn't matter. I should, because she actually tried to harass me when I was filming in Morrilton in the 2nd District GOP debate. She's one of the state legislators that came by and tried to stop me from filming there. I think it's Breanna Davis. Took me a while to remember her name. Anyway, The overwhelming majority of the time when conservatives try to remove these uniparty rhinos from power, it fails. That's what he means by the process works. The process keeps the uniparty, the Democrat rhino establishment in power. And that's what he wants. So I'm going to play some more of this. Sorry, folks, if you're on Podbean, you're trying to hear it. I'll have to just send the link to the video so you can listen in on what it is I'm talking about. And I'll have to edit this out in Ocean because I'll have to find some other way to get the audio from this in the Ocean. Anyway, continue on.
I believe in this situation, the state law is that the legislature is required to take action in order to change the primary structure that our political parties have. And so really what the political parties are saying through their resolutions and things going on and some of the infighting, really has no effect. They don't have the authority, no matter how loudly they scream, to change what the state law has authority over, which in this case, is the primary. So I think it's a debate for the legislature to have. I do have friends on both sides who disagree, and some would like to see it closed. I just err towards the side of keeping it open and keeping people voting and calling themselves Republican. I think that's good for Republicans.
Well,
Okay, so this is an absolute bold-faced lie. And quite frankly, Roby Brock, who never bothers to question him on this, all these people know better. So here's the actual law. This is by Conduit News, a legitimate news site. Unlike Capitol View, they take the time to look and see who actually has the authority regarding Arkansas primary elections. And they ask the question, will a change in Arkansas law be necessary before the Republican Party can close its primary? No, Arkansas law leaves it up to the political parties to decide the issue. And here's the actual Arkansas code, 7-7-307A. The first part says each party may establish by party rules additional qualifications to those established for eligibility to vote in primary elections of the party. And then it goes on further. A political party shall prescribe the qualifications for voting in their party primaries. And if for some reason you've been taught to hate Arkansas news, I know some liberals are taught the second they hear something, they're told to ask for a source, and when the source isn't something that they like, they're supposed to cry debunked or some other kind of stupid cop out. Here's the actual law. You can look it up yourself. There's the Arkansas law. Organized political parties shall have the right to, and there it is, prescribe the qualifications of their own membership. So the state legislature or another organization can't come in and say, you have to remove all Democrats and replace them with Walmart executives, and prescribe qualifications for voting in their party primaries and establish rules and procedures for their own organization. It's right there. There's the law. Does Roby Brock bother to ask John Burris if this is the law? No, of course he doesn't. Here's what he goes and asks.
What's the logic for wanting to close it?
I think just the idea that Democrats or liberal people in general can vote in a Republican primary and decide a nominee. I just think that's something candidates can sort out. You just deal with the cards you're dealt when you're running. If people are voting and calling them, and they're not really Republicans, but they're voting, that's the concern. I just don't think it's that real. And I just think the more people that vote, typically the better candidates we get.
Grant, dude.
And of course, it's an absolute lie. Again, the Rhino establishment candidate is going to get thousands more dollars from various special interest groups, is going to dump all kinds of ads, and they will actively go out and campaign to get Democrats to cross over and choose their nominee. And that's how you end up with failed candidates like John Cooper, who sabotaged the Stand Your Ground law. And it took a large effort in a grassroots activist in Northeast Arkansas. It used to be the Northeast Arkansas, I think, Tea Party. Now I think it's the Craighead County conservative group, to oust John Cooper. Same thing with Sturch. It took a lot of conservatives, a lot of effort to remove James Sturch, who did the Sturch Lurch, and kept taxes in place, these special election tax increases in place, where cities could sneak in, schedule elections on Valentine's Day or a few days before Christmas and bump up our tax increases. And of course, Burris knows this. But again, he's with a consultant firm that wants to keep Republicans in name only in power and keep conservatives who actually want to lower the amount of taxes in the state and do other actual conservative actions out of power.
Democrats want closed primaries, and when they were in control, they didn't try to close primaries that I recall.
Well, absolutely not. Democrats don't want closed primaries for a very simple reason. Not enough Arkansans vote now, and we'd like.
So now this is another lie put out that supposedly closing primaries will stop people from voting. First of all, I don't know how the best way to say this. There's a lot of people you really don't want voting. Okay, you don't want the ignorant, lazy vote. The ignorant, lazy vote is how you end up with Hitler. The ignorant, lazy vote is how you end up with Chavez in Venezuela. So yeah, we want to make it a little effort. No, you don't. This isn't like a poll tax or some other way where they're like Democrats used to do and keep blacks and sometimes Republicans from voting or voter intimidation. It's simple. If you want to vote in the primary process, you register for that party. The system is in several states, and there hasn't been any massive decrease in voting participation in states that have closed primaries. It just doesn't exist. And Grant Tenille, of course, a Democrat, so typically he's lying.
To see a lot more people vote. I will say that the primaries were given to the state as part of a package of legislation that was intended to make elections in Arkansas freer and fairer and all of the things that everybody claims they want. So it really feels like a backward step.
Yeah, to the roots of that lawsuit, I was actually involved in the settlement of some of that lawsuit. Asa Hutchinson was the lawyer who and the head of the Republican Party when that all came to fruition there. But the gist of it was, back in those days, Democrats paid for their primaries, Republicans paid for their primaries. People, you might have 25 polling sites for Democrats in one county and one polling site for Republicans because the Democrats were so dominant at the time. And this evened the playing field there and put it upon the state to pay for that. That's your history lesson for today, everybody. So, all right. Another hot topic this week was Governor Sanders.
Okay, so they go on to talk about Governor Sanders and some statement she made about children. And of course, they waste a lot of time on talking about something that's not even going to be an issue. Folks, what matters to you is the people in put in office. What effort they're going to do to keep government and get government out of your lives. That's what really matters. And the problem is for a long time, the Republican Party of Arkansas, especially after the Tea Party took over and turned the state red, because it wasn't the establishment that did it. It wasn't consultants like John Burris and Chris Caldwell and Richard Bearden and these other overpaid, overrated consultant firms that turned Arkansas red. It was activists, people like me who got out, told people what was really going on, made an effort to change the state. And what happened is a lot of these guys in suits who are basically pawns for the Chamber of Commerce or other special interests got in and hijacked the conservative movement. They ruined the Tea Party, and what they've decided to do is now find a way to keep in power their puppets. And of course, within the conservative movement, there's often a lot of disagreements on how to best fight the establishment. But one thing needs to be clear. The RPA leadership had no authority to nullify the state convention, and the Arkansas legislature does not decide whether primaries are open and closed. It clearly states in the law how that process is to be. And not only on top of the law, there's even legal precedent. Attorney General Tim Griffin, opinion number 2023-030. I don't know if that's a year or not, but this is an opinion. There was a legal issue regarding this, and they decided the same thing. So folks, Go ask your state legislatures if they're going to respect the state convention. You don't have to get them to make any pledge to adhere to the platform, because pledges are useless. Ask them what they've done to make sure that the Republican Party of Arkansas obeys the rules. That's really what you should do. Not get them to say anything. What have you actually done? Your actions speak a lot louder than your words. So, folks, I'm going to wrap things up here. That's all I wanted to comment on. I'll do a broadcast Wednesday at 12:35. You could find me at Just the Right Angle on YouTube. I'm sorry, Keep Arkansas League on YouTube. Just the Right Angle on Rumble, Gab, Parler, MeWe, Truth Social. Look for me there. I'll have a recording of this, and this will be on Podbeam as well. Other than that, you all have a great day.